Hey guys, still here and welcome back to Steel Division 2. Today I wanted to have a look at the armory and the battle group selection, just to show you what you can be doing, how you can be adjusting your decks, what options you have and what you need to keep in mind. So let's dig in. Battle groups. If you go for battle groups, you have divisions, battle groups and armory. Divisions allow you to see what sort of divisions there are. There are currently 18 divisions in the game, and if you get Steel Division 1, or if you have Steel Division 1, then at some point you're also going to be getting the Western divisions from Steel Division 1. Anyway, these are all the divisions, ranging from rating A, B and C. The A, B and C rating means how good at these things are attacking. As you can see, when you hold over or when you hover over the rating tab, it says A is a very strong attacking force, but usually mediocre in defense. B is so and so, they can both attack and defend properly, and C is mediocre at attacking but strong in defending. So you're going to be having to pick your own gameplay style before you even get into building your deck. Do you want to go on the offensive? Do you want to be somebody who maybe works together with somebody either on voice comms or through text markers? They push in, they capture the terrain, and then you come in and you hold the terrain for them, so that they can relocate their forces and once again go on the offensive. You're going to see various unit emblems. At the moment I still am very much learning these, and I'll do a separate video on all these different unit emblems so you can figure out what is what and what you need to be paying attention to. Fortunately, it does tell you what sort of type of deck this is. You currently have 3 different types. You have armored, indicated by the tank. You have mechanized, indicated by the APC, and then you have the infantry, indicated by the infantryman. And again, there are a lot of different options. There are a lot of different things that you can go into. So for now, let's just pick a new battle group. There are two different ways for you to get to this screen, to the new battle group. You can either go through the route that I just showed you, so you can pick a division, or you can go to battle groups and just click create, and you're once again going to be sent to the divisions page. For now, let's go with a deck from the A rating 29th Tankovy Corpus. So basically a tank group. Organized as a standard tank corps, the 29th Tank Corps didn't enjoy such a lavish rehaul as the 2nd Guards did. So you're probably going to be facing some less effective or maybe some older tanks. Alright, let's select. Now you have a lot of options on this particular screen. What you need to know is what it says up here. This is your basic information. What side are you playing on? Allies or Axis? What type of deck are you? What's the name of the deck or the name of the division that you're working with? Again, what nation is it and what is their unit emblem? I for one don't quite know for what this is. I just usually call it the Life Vest. And that's the way that I try to remember that this is an armored group. Then you have new battle group, and this is where you can give your own deck a name. And over on the right you have activation points. Every point that you spend or every card that you put in your deck costs you 1 activation point, 2, 3, 4 and 5, depending on how much you have available, of course. It's also going to be depending on how much of an orientation you have towards a particular type of deck. This is an armored deck, and you can see that it has a lot of cheap slots for armored units. A lot of these 1-point cards or 1-point slots, and it goes up to a maximum of 4. What this deck does not really have that much of is reconnaissance. But if I were to pick a different deck or a different division type, let's say I'm going to go for an infantry unit, you're going to see that it changes dramatically. You have only 2 cheap tank tabs and a couple of mediums, one even at 3 points. But you do have a lot of cheap infantry cards. And of course, this will also indicate how effective you're going to be in the battle. Because if you're going to try and take infantry units across an open field, then you're not that likely to get that much effective use out of them. If you try to take a bunch of tanks into a town, similarly, you're not that likely to survive for very long periods of time. Now there is another very important thing that you need to be looking at if you're creating a new battle group, and that is this, deployment type. The game works with 3 deployment phases. First is phase A, then is phase B, and then is phase C. Phase A is usually the early land grab phase. You can see some offensives on this, but generally it's land grabbing and consolidating positions. Phase B is where you likely see more offensive actions. And Phase C is where you can pull out all the stops, or at least depending on your type of deck and units that you have, and go fully offensive. How effective you're going to be in each phase depends on both what units you have in that particular phase, but also on your deployment type. And your deployment type indicates the amount of points that you're getting per turn or per phase. So you could say, hey, I want to have a balanced deck. Phase A is where I want 100 points per, I think, minute. Phase B, I want 140 per minute. And Phase C, I want 170 per minute. This could work. Alternatively, you could say, no, I want to be most effective in Phase A. I'm going to go for Vanguard. I want a lot of points in Phase A. I don't need that much in Phase B because that's when I'm wrapping up. And Phase C, well, screw it. If I'm not done by then I still have a decent income. Maverick focuses very much on Phase B. On Phase A, they're pretty strong at 120. Phase B, they got 180 income per minute. That's a lot of points that you have flowing in. And Phase C, you only have 80. So in Phase C, this particular type of deployment could be really hampered because you simply cannot afford that much. And a Juggernaut, sometimes called a steamroll or a steamer, they take a while to get up to steam, but once they get going, they are very hard to stop. Because in Phase C, these guys get 200 points. There's one caveat with this. You and your team need to survive long enough to get to Phase C, or a Juggernaut is not going to be as effective as you might like. Now for now, let's leave it unbalanced and go on to the particular deck types. If you're adding a unit to your deck, you have a couple of options. Over on the right, you see what a unit can do, what they are armed with, and what sort of transport they have. Now, let's go from top to bottom. Unit configuration. This is the particular number of units that you have. So you have 4 units if you add 1 card. They cost you 15. You're deploying them in Phase A, and they have no experience. So they have no veterancy levels. You could say, nope, I want a bit more veterancy. This is going to help with the combat effectiveness of the Dozor. However, you're also sacrificing availability. That just went from 4 to 3. If you want them even better, that is possible. You can promote them even further, but you're going to be losing out and you only have 2. Next, you have a, depending on the type of deck that you're using, a lot of different transport options. And this might not be the most effective way of seeing what transport would be best for this unit. So click on display all transports and you suddenly have an overview of what these transports are, what they look like and what they cost you. But not just that. You can also click on them and you immediately get all the stats for that unit. If you're going for a unit that is quick and needs to grab terrain in Phase A, then make sure that you have both a good road speed and a good off-road speed. So the Jeep is a very good contender. If you were to go for something like this, the ZIS 5V, well, it's not going to be that effective, or at least not as fast as you might like. Comparing that to the Jeep, this thing has a road speed of 50 and an off-road of 32. So it is almost half the speed of the Jeep. And this way, you can also pick whether you want a vehicle with a machine gun, yes or no. Another important thing that you can see over here is the binocular icon. And this means that this is a reconnaissance unit as well. One very important thing about the transports, you have transports which are armed, and you have transports which are not armed. The ZIS 42 is not armed. If you offload your infantry from it, the vehicle just disappears. If you have something like the BA-20, which is an armored personnel carrier with a light machine gun, and you offload your infantry, then the transport still stays around. This means that the transport with the light machine gun can provide fire onto enemy infantry. Of course, it can also provide fire onto enemy armor, but it's not going to be effective. A machine gun against a tank generally doesn't work that well. So pick what sort of unit you want, but also keep an eye on the white numbers below the unit number, below the unit pricing. You can see that this unit is going to cost me 10, this is going to cost me 20, this is going to cost me nothing. I have 80 jeeps available. I only have 12 of the Rezvedka M3A1 available. So again, you're going to have to pick what sort of availability you want. Now then you add it to the battle group, and currently I only have 2 units of infantry in the ZIS-42. If you want a different transport, then you can either go through here, and for example add the Rezvedka, but keep in mind that a Rezvedka is 20 points. So all of a sudden your Dozor are going to come with the Rezvedka, but they're going to cost you 35 points to call in. And this again is one of those design decisions that you're going to have to make. For this particular deck, I would ideally start with the infantry. And you're going to have to really think, how do you want to play this deck? Because you have so many options. If you want the infantry in this deck to really quickly make progress, then you could go for the Vanguard. And you could go with a lot of units in Phase A. That way you make sure that your units are numerous, because you can afford them, thanks to that high availability and high income, and that you can quickly deploy them. However, if you're not wrapping things up by the end of Phase B, then in Phase C you could get hampered. So for this particular deck, you could go with quite a few units of infantry in Phase A. Now something else that changes as you go through the phases is the availability. If I go in Phase A with the Kazaki, I have 9 of them. Phase B, I get 18. Phase C, I get 27. So you get a lot more units depending on which phase you are in. The later the phase, the more units. And this does again give you a design option. Do I want to have a couple more units in Phase A? Or am I going to stick with 9 units in Phase A? Am I going to stick with higher veterancy in Phase B? And am I going to get maximum veterancy in Phase C? If I do it this way, the units are going to get increasingly more effective, but I am sacrificing the number of units that I can field. If I would just field all the Kazaki in the lowest veterancy level, I could fit 1, then in B I could fit 18, and then in C I could fit 27. So all of a sudden I now have 54 units of infantry. Again, all of this is going to be up to your design. How do you want to fill your deck? What type of deck are you using? What map are you playing at? What sort of aggressive playstyle do you like? Do you want to be very aggressive in Phase A? Or do you want to just let the enemy have some more terrain in Phase A and potentially steamroll them in Phase C? It is all up for your choice. And with that, it can be a bit overwhelming. So if you're starting out with this game, then I recommend that you stick, at least initially, with the just balanced deployment type. 100 Phase A, 140 Phase B, 170 Phase C. Don't make it too hard on yourself. Go with a deck that you think is going to work for you. Keep in mind, armor is very armor heavy, but infantry light. Infantry is the opposite. Lots of infantry, few tank units. And the mechanized is going to be somewhere in between. And as you might see, there seems to be a trend where the infantry units are more defensively oriented. They're more Phase C units, or sorry, Rating C units. Make sure you don't confuse rating with phase. These things are very, very different. A game will always have several different phases, Phase A, B, and C. But a unit rating is basically a quick summary of how effective at attacking or defending are you. Phase C, very good at defending, not good at attacking, or not that good. Phase B, so and so. And Rating A, very good at attacking, not that good at defending. So again, lots and lots of design decisions to make. With that, I'm going to end this video. I don't want it to be too long. I just wanted to give you an information overview of what you can do with the deck building, how you can get your divisions going, and all the variables that you have to keep an eye on. It can be quite overwhelming. I recommend you stick with one deck and you make slight adjustments to it depending on how well that deck operates in a particular match. If you keep jumping from deck to deck, then it's going to be harder for you to get intimately familiar with the units and to know what their capabilities and, again, weaknesses are. So stick with one deck, make some slight adjustments after you see the results of the match. Pick the units that you liked, maybe get some more of those, and units that you didn't like, just try to get fewer of those. And with that, that's the end of the video. If you have any further questions on it, let me know down below in the comments and I'll try to help you out as best I can. And if you need more information about the game, then I have more tutorial videos coming up. Link down below in the description for the playlist with all the tutorials. If you have a specific request for a tutorial, let me know down below in the comments as well, and I'll get to work on making a video about that particular topic. Anyway, that's all. Thank you for watching. Hope you found it useful, and I'll see you soon for more videos.